Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks and you are checking out a massive tutorial on ADSR sounds. So this video we're going to be looking at this Wavetable Position slider that's located in the voicing tab of Massive. Now I wanted to do this tutorial for a couple of reasons. First, I just wanted to show that it's a really powerful tool when used correctly, and it's personally one of my favorite kind of tips and tricks that I use for big leads and drop sounds and pads and sometimes even plucks. And then I also wanted to show you how to properly use it, because I've seen on some presets and some other things that it's not being used to the fullest potential. So I thought I would kind of talk about how it plays off of the other two settings or parameters that you can tweak in the Unison engine in Massive, which is this pitch cutoff and the pan position. So right now I have a kind of like a supersaw sound pulled up, and I'm starting out with the virtual analog pulse width modulation wavetable. I want to show you that this does very little, if anything, to this actual wavetable. Now if I change this to a square saw, we have a bigger amount of change. So what's going on with this Wavetable Position slider here goes from 0 to 100%. And what it's doing is it's changing the wavetable position of your voices of a unison, right? So when I if I go to Chrome, let me find that real quick. It's a very cool wave to show this. So right now, if I put the wavetable position in the middle, there's a sound that we have. To the left, to the right, to the left. All right, so it's vastly different, right? Now, if I take this wavetable position slider and I have it on, and I move it all the way up, off, on, we hear the buzzy part of the wavetable, which was over at the right on my actual oscillator. Well, what this is doing is it's looking at how many voices of unison I have. It plays off of how much of the pitch cutoff that you have, which is the D tune, and even the pan position. And what it's going to do is it's going to move the position of the voices of Unison's wavetable. So it's not actually, like if we stuck a modulator like an LFO right here and modulated up, it's not like the same thing as going like this. This is actually moving through our main oscillator, our main voice, and the wavetable position associated with that. Whereas when we pop that LFO modulation on the wavetable position in the voicing, it's moving through the wavetable position of just the unison voices. So it's a really powerful tool. Now I see a lot of presets that just have the wavetable position on. Maybe it'll look like this. Right? Well, you can't really hear the extent of that effect with just the wavetable position up. It helps to have the pan position on. Because now listen to this. I'm going to turn the pan position to the right, which means it's a very stereo. The stereo image is very wide, and then I'm going to turn the wavetable position up to 100. So do you hear how the buzzy part of the wavetable, which was to the right, this chrome wavetable, it's in the right ear, and do you hear how the main sound is kind of happening in the left? Well, that's because of this pan position. So these three tools really play off of each other quite nicely. And to get a really musical result, it helps to use all three with your sounds. So let me bring in the other wavetables here, and I'm going to use square saws instead of the virtual analog, because it'll actually create a difference in sound. So now we have this big supersaw sound. Okay, so now when we start to move this around in the wavetable position, you can actually hear the difference. Well, what I like to do, one of my favorite things to do, is to modulate that wavetable position with an LFO or even an envelope to create some movement and mojo in the sound. So let's turn the rate down, turn the amp down. Let's select a different rate wave. I'm going to select Vibrato Wave 2 Dual. And we're going to turn the X fade up all the way to that waveform. And now let's go back to the voicing. We're going to take that LFO and modulate into our wavetable position. So now we have this movement where the movement's only occurring in the unison voices as opposed to the main oscillators. The reason why I like doing this more so than just always throwing this on maybe my actual oscillator sound is it makes it more musical because it's more subtle. You still get some nice movement to your sound. But if I were to stick this on the wavetable position of my oscillators, it's going to be a huge, huge change in the sound. Hear that? You actually hear the LFO sound. So if I applied it to all three, which is what it's doing essentially when I use this wavetable position, the voicing tab, there's almost like a slight gate or rhythmic movement to the sound, which is not something you always want. So that's why I personally like to use, when I'm working with sounds that have a lot of voices of unison and I'm using the pitch cutoff and the pan position and then maybe the wavetable position, that's why I personally like to use the LFO or envelope to modulate that as opposed to the actual wavetable itself. So there are some tips and tricks on how to better use the wavetable position inside of Massive. If you have any questions or comments, let me know below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.